Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Table Talks. We're so glad to have you to pull up a seat with us at the table. My name is Martina Young, and I have with me the lovely Bernice, Michelle, and the awesome April Starks. Like you all
Good
can see, my
morning.
hands is I'm pointing to you. So we are so glad to have you here with us today. And here we are serving up at the table today a discussion on mental wellness or mental health, mental well-being. And so, you know, our thought progress for this whole entire 2021 is that we want this to be a time that at the table that we're not just talking about problems because there's more than enough discussions talking about problems. Good morning, Shamia. We're also coming together to talk about solutions for some of the issues that most of us that sit at any table have seen. And so today you may call it mental health. We're saying mental wellness. And when you stop and think about not only 2020, but even 2021, these past couple of years, it has been like our minds have been bombarded with issues and things that we have to process. And one of the images that I'm going to say God brought to my mind is like that it's like our minds have been boxed. It's like your mind has been in a boxing ring trying to process everything that has been going on. We have issues nationally, locally, personally, on our jobs. And sometimes when your mental space is being bombarded like that, we really have to take time and look for what are solutions for when I feel like my mind is in a boxing ring. And this goes from, we're talking about solutions from medium to minor mental issues to at times in life, we can go through experiences that would be classified as acute, major mental trauma and issues that need to be addressed. And so today we're just talking about it. We could even say, people say, mind your business. People use that term, mind your business. Well, you know what? Sometimes my mind is my business, and literally not sometimes, but all of the time, we need to get into the space where the business of our mind is important to us. And so, hey, let's talk about it, ladies. And so, the first question I want to ask you all is, when it comes to mental health and wellness, what comes to your mind, and why do you think do you think it's important that we consider our mental health? And so yeah, let's just dig at it. So what comes to your mind, and do you think it's important? Whoever wants to jump in.
Well, for me, mental wellness, I think of balance and stability, and so those two things would be your standard or your measure. That anything that is taking you off balance or causing you to be unstable would be something that is going against you being well mentally. And so that could be, your work, school, relationship, any of those aspects. And so mental wellness for me, I think of balance and stability are two things that come to mind.
Do you think it's important that we take time to address our mental wellness and health,
Oh
and
yes,
why?
I think that we need to be intentional. It's something that it needs to be set as a priority. To make those, because sometimes you can get so caught up in life that you realize that you haven't taken the time to check in with yourself because you're checking in with everyone else. And so being intentional is a necessary decision. And so sometimes God gives me acronyms, and one acronym that I have, you said minding our business is mind, MIND. is make intentional, necessary decisions to be about mental wellness for yourself. So make intentional, necessary decisions. And so it's a necessity. It's just like eating and air. Though being well within yourself and your mind is peaceful. And so, yeah, it's 100%. I think it's something that we need to, make a priority in our lives.
You got me doing this slow shaking my head already. Okay. That is so good. So, again, the acronym for MIND is making
Making
intentional,
intentional, necessary
necessary decisions. I
decisions.
love it. Phew, absolutely necessary. Lord.
Mhm.
April.
Definitely 100% in agreement with what Bernice stated. When I think of mental wellness, I think of the awareness of yourself, and that's daily.
Mhm.
It's not an annual exam. It's a daily exam. I think of when I think of wellness mentally, I think of the and I guess that could fall within the intentionality of being aware of your thoughts, and the I guess the flow, kind of like you said. Sometimes you feel like you're in a boxing ring mentally, and we know in boxing you have two opponents, and we deal with that every day. There's two opponents coming against us when we wake up, when we open our eyes, and when our feet hit the ground. I heard there's one quote one time that's kind of out there that says, look, your opponent in the ring knows that you're up. When your feet hits the ground, they're like, uh-oh. She's up, he's up. So as soon as we get up, we hit the ring. We hit the mental ring of life that comes to bombard us and to oppose us. And so every day, constantly, we have to have that awareness that that's what we're in. And then when we know that, it allows us to make sure that we're being strengthened through some things that we're probably going to definitely touch on today, because no doubt a boxer takes different things and does different things for themselves to be prepared for the fight, and strong enough to endure the rounds of the fight. So you notice how some days you might not have as much of a fight. That might have been the bell rung. When they get to go to the side of the ring, they at least get to sit down for a little bit, and their trainer is putting the sponge of water on the head. They putting their little press on them because they don't got hit in the eye. They having a little rest for the moment. And we do have those days, and we do have those times and those seasons where it's like, we good. But then when the bell rings, it's like you back at it. And that could be a traumatic situation that comes your way unexpectedly. Like, whoa, what is this? It could be a job transition. It could be family interact. All of those things affect our mind, and those are different fights that we have to encounter. But what about when you have to encounter multiple ones at one time? It's not just one fight. So your mind is just constantly trying to decompartmentalize and work through that process. And so it's essential, as already stated, that every single day that we're making intentional, necessary decisions for ourselves personally, because no one else can do it for us. No one knows what's on your mind. You know how people say, man, if walls could talk, because what's on your mind if it was on the big screen, or what you was dealing with on the big screen. Some people probably wouldn't even want that, but that's the truth of it, in that no one else knows that. And so you have to be the caretaker of your mind, which is probably one of the most important parts, I would say. It's interesting how our head is at the top, because if we're not controlling our mind, it affects all your bodily organs, it goes down. So when they say bless them from the crown of their head to the sole of their feet, we mean it. Look, bless their mind first, and let's hit everything else next, because that's our engine. Like a car, that's our engine. Without the engine, the car is nothing. You can look pretty on the outside, but if the car engine is not functioning, you can have a Ferrari. You gone with your Ferrari. and it don't start up.
Mhm.
It's not going anywhere. So mental wellness is very, very important.
And I like that you gave that car example because, you're talking about a Ferrari, or let's just imagine any expensive vehicle that on the outside, it looks wonderful. But if that engine is malfunctioning, no matter how pretty it looks on the outside, it can't go anywhere. And
Mhm.
sometimes we as individuals, we have gotten in the habit of dressing up, what I mean? Like making it look like everything is perfect when literally there may be some things that we need to address within our engine that keep us from moving forward. And our mind is literally our control center. When you think about the mind, when you think about the essential activity of the brain, like a person, and Bernice, you'll be able to speak to this from a medical perspective, but when you think about how essential the brain is in the functioning of the body, like literally that when we're moving and when we're doing different things, it is a result of information and signals that are being sent from our brain that enables us to do that. And oftentimes when people are experiencing conditions in their physical body where they're paralyzed or different things like that, it's because of issues in the signals and the transmitters in their brain. And
Mhm.
so goes with the mind. When we're talking about the mind, like literally that our mind is our control center, and literally it's also often our attack center. That the enemy literally will try to wreak havoc on your mind because it affects so many other parts of you. And
Mhm.
when we talk about our mind, that means at times I'm processing natural things. Okay, what do I do for my job? What do I do for my home? What do I do for my family? Then also, you're processing things like, just think about what we've gone through in this past year with COVID.
Mhm.
Okay, then your mind's also dealing with, what do I need to do to make sure that I'm safe, that I keep my family safe? Then your mind is processing also some of the results of those experiences. And
Mhm.
so it is essential that we take time to consider what is on our mind and not just, pretend. Sometimes we can get to the place where we're pretending that things are okay and we keep going and going. We at times are so busy being humans doing different things that we don't take times to be a human being, just to be. And in the midst of all of the doing, you literally can find yourself exhausted because of all that's been running through your mind. Think about it. I know I can be honest and say there have been times where sleep has been challenging. Why? Because I had so much on my mind that it was like, even though my body was laying still, my mind was still running. And so, literally, it is so important that we do take time to invest in our mental wellness, to
Mhm.
to invest in our mental health, because it is the control center. And so much is birthed from our mind, our words, our actions. It's not just, and think about how small thoughts may appear to us, but thoughts are major because our thoughts literally they give birth to actions and feelings. And so if I don't stop and consider what's on my mind, then literally I can find myself on the road down because of it. And Summer said, not trying to be too churchy, but asking the Lord to anoint our head with oil. This was the way for a shepherd to oil the head of the sheep to keep flies and parasites from attacking the head of the sheep, which in turn causes the sheep to go crazy. Girl, listen, if I could throw this pen at you, I would. And then Bernice, I want you to speak on the medical side of it. But literally, and I'm saying that because, like, I cannot stand flies. Okay, like flies, I feel like they're from the devil.
They are.
Just gonna tell you, flies, literally. And so, two flies just appeared, like literally. And I was so disgusted. I'm like, I hate flies. And like literally, but God, I killed them, but then God used them to speak to me about how things come to pester and to irritate you. And literally, things do come to pester and irritate you and attempt to throw you off. And we have to address it. And he was like, apply pressure. And so, literally, even as you're talking about that, Lord Jesus, as you're talking about how the shepherds anointed the head of the sheep, it was because that the pests would pester them, they would irritate them, and with that oil and with that anointing, it kept the sheep's head from being irritated. And there's nothing like when your mind is off track and when you're irritated and when you're messed up in your mind, because literally in the midst of you trying to fight your irritation, if we just be honest, that's where sometimes in life we go and pick up things that will try to provide temporary relief, and literally it's us trying to get rid of the parasites that are attacking our minds. So but anyway, not jump too far ahead. So Bernice, do you have anything to add to that from the perspective of, your experience medically?
Well, I mean, you hit it head on. I mean, the description that you gave of how our mental state impacts our total being, and our mind, our activity of our brain determines if we are alive. They test your brain waves, to determine if there's any activity, signs of life, and so that just shows how important the mind is. It is something that cannot be seen, and it only can be experienced. April, you touched on something of our own awareness. And, I cannot know what's going on in your mind, Martina, in your mind, April. You all are independent, and I'm independent of myself. And so I have to be the one that is in control of what is conditioning my mind. And so you spoke of one word, investment, and an investment, it doesn't have to cost anything to take care of yourself, to have mental wellness. It doesn't have to cost a whole lot, And so the medical aspect of it is if just think of the connection, mind, body, and spirit, and if anything is going on here, a dis-ease will come up somewhere in your body. And sometimes that will be an autoimmune dis-ease. And so that will be a dis-easement in yourself, because autoimmune is a self disease. And so that's how we have to be so in tune and intentional about the care that we give ourselves, because we don't want to harm the most important person in our lives, us. If we can't take care of everyone else, if we are not taking care of number one. And so the mental sleep, you mentioned sleep. Sleep is very important. And sometimes you can't release those things, or troubling something that's troubling you, and then that cycle, then you can't sleep, then you can't eat, and then your stomach's having disturbances, your cycle, your natural cycle of elimination, that is disturbed, all because you did not take care of your mind. And so it's all connected. No one no one entity operates alone. If I can't compartmentalize what I'm thinking and not think that it's not going to affect me in any other area of my life, in my body, the connection with your heart and your mind, there is a heart mind connection, to where I have to be in the now. I can't think about the past. I can't think about the future. I have to remain in the now, because if you think about the future, that's anxiety, right? You think about the future, so that's a mind thing, and that gives a bodily response. Your heart starts to race, you're having palpitations, and your body starts to respond with the sweating and all, and so and then the thinking about the past, that's depression. because you're recycling things, thoughts that have already happened. And so that right there, that your depression will cause you not want to move. You won't be able to do anything, and so that is how important taking care and being intentional about your mind and your thoughts and doing. I know we're going to talk about solutions and different things, that activities that you can do, but an investment, I want to go back to that, doesn't have to cost anything for you to take care of yourself and your wellness. And so we'll probably hit that later, but yeah.
I wanted to touch on with it being our central control system, essentially, and going back to the analogy of the car, when our engine light comes on, pay attention to it. And all of us, or some of us, have probably done this. The engine light comes on, you just keep driving, and you keep driving. We were driving my husband's car probably a couple weeks ago. And he has a Mercedes, so that's expensive to maintain, right? And that's another thing about being aware of yourself. You have to know what it takes for you. It may not take maybe as much maintenance for a Toyota, but it takes more maintenance for a Mercedes. So we're driving, and the check engine light comes on. I'm like, okay, why your check engine light comes on? And he says, oh, it's good. When I get home, I'll look, it's probably a sensor. So he's learned his car enough that he's able to recognize when certain things happen, what it is. And lo and behold, it was a sensor. He went and he got the sensor. He was able to take care of that, and the light went off. So I share that to say, sometimes when we're driving along, be aware of when those things come up. It's interesting, Vernice brought up autoimmune diseases and different things that try to come and attack our body. Well, for me, I will just share with the listeners. So I was diagnosed years ago with Crohn's disease. And I just want to give a little testimony right here. So I appreciate God. Number one, I know that he's a healer. Because even in the midst of that situation, it was very difficult to make the adjustments, to recognize that a lot of triggers for that particular ailment is due to stress and, maybe even mental complexities. If you're dealing with something, of course, like she said, it affects other parts of your body. And so through being aware and attentive and also prayerful, I was able to get off of the medicine and basically essentially be in remission. So I just want to glorify God for being in remission, probably the last about 6 to 7 years in remission. And it's because I've had to learn my body and to somewhat be thankful for different things that he's allowed to come. So for example, I'll give you a good example. Whenever I feel like, sometimes if I eat something, I could get irritated, and I know I got to let that go. Like, you love that ice cream, you got to stop eating it. So choices that we make. So I want to share that too, because sometimes we put it on God. Lord's doing it. No, choices we make. That's why awareness of ourselves is important mentally, that we're not putting it all on God, or, this supernatural force is going to come and just take it away. Sometimes it's there for us to be more accountable to ourselves and to care and love ourselves, because we have the power to do that. It's back to our identity series. When we know who we are, that we're recognizing we have the power to control our minds. And so even with Crohn's disease, number one, when I eat something, I know, boom, I have to take that off of my list of things I can eat. And we can talk about that with diabetes, heart disease. The list can go on with stuff people need to take off their list that affects them. The other part is when I start to feel pains, then I know I'm getting too stressed. And I have learned to now thank God. Like, I don't get mad. I thank God that he's given me an engine light that comes on, and it lets me know you're doing too much. calm down or readjust, recalibrate, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And still be in a state of remission, because it's like, you ain't getting me. You are not getting me. I'm about to adjust this or do this. I'm about to do some of the solutions that we're probably going to talk about. And I'll share some things that I do as solutions to settle my mind, because then it gets to flow throughout my body, including my digestive system.
Mhm.
It begins to soothe it. It begins to relax it. It begins to, make everything back into balance. So then I don't have to, necessarily go back to, maybe the medications and things like that, which some people need. You need it to get you to a level. But I have learned myself enough to take heed to that engine light when it comes on, so that I don't have flare-ups to a degree that I'm hospitalized or just down and out for weeks and months, because I've seen where it can get me, because I've been there. And so I have mental wellness. It starts with my mind. It don't start with my stomach, even though that's where it's housed, sort of battle's housed. It starts with my mind. And I make sure that I do those intentional, necessary things and make those intentional, necessary decisions, so that I can live in holistic health. But it starts with the mind.
That's so good. And that leads me to what are some of you said the check engine light. So, ladies, what would you say are some of the signals to tell us that, hey, you need to check your mind, like things are off? What would you say were some of the signals or the alert signs that sometimes we maybe have developed a habit of overlooking? So what would you say are some of the signals? We mentioned about difficulty sleeping. What are some other things that may be indicators to us that, hey, you need to check your mind out to make sure it's okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes we know, like if our stomach is hurting and churning and stuff like that, that's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take it as a bad thing. Honestly, you get, headaches, start having multiple headaches or migraines. That's triggers. Those are all things your body's saying the engine light's on, just being alert of that. Pains, tension, tension in your shoulders, you feeling all tight and the weight of it, then okay, I'm not going to get anxious about it, but I'm going to say, okay, what is my body saying to me? What have I taken on?
All righty. And
Taking time to consider
okay.
what's on our minds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's good. I like to Summer had mentioned changing your menstrual cycle, isolation, heart palpitations. Bernice, do you want to add any?
I wanted to, the connection between, we have the heart mind connection, but there is a gut mind connection. You have that, I have a gut feeling, things are not right. And we ignore it. We go against what our gut has been telling us. And, those are more, that's the engine light coming on, that uneasy feeling of, oh, should I continue to eat these things? Should I continue to do these? Should I continue to practice these habits or whatever? And so, that is our mind within our gut, telling us, hey, warning, 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 because sometimes our thoughts tell us, this is not right. But then our body reacts by giving us butterflies or just giving us that feeling that something just isn't right. And so when we ignore that within our mind, sometimes it'll break. There is, such thing as a mental break. And, having those signs of irritability, that's another one, just being very short with people, that you might need to, check yourself before you wreck yourself, and do some self-care, just being aware of your attitude, like Summer said, checking in, is it this time of the month, and then giving yourself some grace, because, you are, it is that time, okay, it's that time of the month. I need to go ahead and, do those self-care, drink my tea. Am I doing my smoothies? Doing those things that, bring you into resolve for your mental wealth, and so our mind, there is also a, not only a mind heart, but there is a gut mind connection, that gut feeling will tell us, hey, warning, warning, something's not right, and we need to pay attention to before something breaks, within our mind. And then, it's not always, it could be a hard road to come back from that break,
Yeah.
And so our body, and when we do have that break, our body will respond,
Yeah.
and so we have to be in tune with our total self, and that's what it's all about. Sometimes we have to, take our engine, our car to the maintenance to get a tune up, and so that is being in tune with how we feel, checking in, hey, just, as we check on other people, make sure that we're checking on ourselves.
That is so good. And Robin had mentioned too about hair coming out, changings in your eating habits. And as we mentioned before, literally that is why it is so important that we do know ourselves, so that when we see ourselves responding or reacting to things in different ways, that we say, hey, and that we don't just run by it. And even when you talk about like car example, and I know we mentioned this once before, like literally when that low gas light comes on in your car to say your gas is low, if you keep on driving and driving, you are going to be on the road out of gas. And sometimes we can find ourselves overriding that, and we keep driving thinking, oh, I can go a little bit more. But we need to be sensitive to when our body is telling us that. When you find yourself, for me, I can tell because I'm not patient as I normally am. And so when my patience is gone, and literally I start having thoughts that are not my normal thoughts, I be thinking, you just getting on my nerves, like your thoughts are just not normal. And then I mean, one day this week, I'm gonna be honest, I was mad. I was just mad, but I was mad because I was tired. Because I was like, I don't even know what I'm mad at. I'm just mad. But and literally that was because I was exhausted. And so we really do, we have to be careful and mindful that we don't just override, that we know ourselves, and that when our bodies, when our cells begin to give us that low gas warning, that we don't keep riding till we're on fumes, or that back to our boxing match, that we're not laid out on the ring, on the mat, and at the 10, like 10, 9, or however they do the countdown. I don't watch
the count.
But that, that we're not on the mat with the countdown going, saying, can you get up? And even if you find yourself on the mat and they at 10, make sure, that you press on through to get up. We literally have to be intentional about taking care of our mind. And with that said, we want to, so what are the solutions? And I'm going to say not only solutions, but suggestions, because some things may be on, like what we're saying is a solution, but what are some solutions and suggestions that we can leave with everyone regarding what do we do to keep our minds well, ladies?
One thing I would say, because I thought about this question before we started, is like our input produces our output. So maybe even for individuals, if we haven't, it's a suggestion, if you haven't tried it, even this week, being aware of, when I eat this, I react this way. I'm telling you, you'll start being like surprised the results from eating certain things, how your mood changes. Even the highs and lows, we know this with caffeine. So you'll drink, because I'm like addicted to Pepsi. So just being aware, when I drink Pepsi, I'm ready to be off the chain. I'm ready to be like, yes, I'll be pumped, ready to go, charged. But give me a couple hours and I'm gonna be low as low can get. Right? So is that worth it? Like, was the 2 hours of me being pumped worth me getting to a low? and feeling horrible.
Mhm.
And then, like you said, your mind rolling, your mind thinking crazy stuff you normally don't think, and all of that. And it was a result of a Pepsi. Was the Pepsi worth it? You know, and sometimes you might say, I need it. Yes, I don't care, it's worth it. But just know that can cause certain things. So when you're wanting to have longevity, I'm not saying, you know, every once in a while you might not want to treat yourself, but just if you're thinking about the longevity of our health and mental wellness, those are things we need to be aware of. So input produces output. So just trying that out, seeing what you do. Input, including what are we listening to? So when you listen to certain things, I know there's certain music, even when I have my Pandora on when I'm working or things like that. This is funny. Yesterday this happened to me. I put it on my easy listening station and I start feeling all low. And my mind was all feeling, I said, wait, no, we not great to easy listening because these songs is giving an output that's not good. Right? Or it could be your love channel station, I don't know, and then your mind start going some places and you start feeling out where it's like, turn the love station, it ain't working today, the love songs ain't working. Or it could be another channel that is maybe some more aggressive things, right? And then you feel yourself getting charged and angered, frustrated. All of that is real. It's real energies. It's real. All that comes with listening. What am I watching? So those same things go with watching. If I'm watching something, it's funny. Like sometimes when we're wanting to watch movies, you know, if the family's like, well, let's watch XYZ. I'm not feeling that today because you just have to know yourself because that's going to take me some places. I don't want to feel that way today. I'm not strong enough. Be honest. I'm not strong enough to watch that today. But we're not honest with ourselves. That's a good one. We gotta be honest with us, not other people. At the end of the day, you just have to be honest with yourself. Where am I? I'm gonna go back to what we said earlier. Take time to consider what is on our minds because we honestly can control it. The Identity series. We honestly have the power to control our minds, contrary to popular belief, contrary to maybe medical science. We have power. We were wired and created. We're the only human being, are the only creation. Human beings were given the power to control our minds. We just need to talk about it more. That's why we're coming to the table, talking about it more to allow us to be aware that we have the power, that we are aware that when certain inputs try to come, that I have the power to pull down that imagination. I have the power to pull down that thought, or I can fester it, let it grow, keep, letting it plant and grow up into a big tree. Without one person I really love, if you all want to check out, and you probably know her, Dr. Caroline Leaf. I love her because she's a woman of God, number one. She's a neuroscience. So she takes the science of the mind and couple it with the power of the creator, the Most High. So she doesn't elevate science over God, but she balances the two to help you see what we really are capable of as humans. And I want to show this real quick because I actually just finished her book. Cleaning up your mental mess. I suggest that. It has a lot of science in it, so you have to be prepared to just really take in some good information to understand the power that you have to control your mind. So that's one resource I would say as a suggestion that I would give for people to read her book. She has other books, maybe read her books. I personally, solution for people, if you're interested, the Word of God is a renewer of mind. I know it to be true. Some people may lend to it or not, but I know the Word of God to be true as a renewer of mind, as we take it in daily, like a little vitamin. You don't take the whole pill of vitamins. You take one vitamin a day or two. There's a certain dosage that you take each day. It's a renewer of our mind. It's just like a book. So sometimes we read books and we have daily devotionals that we read that help renew our mind. The Word of God is just that as well. Exercise, physical activity, and just protecting our peace. And I'll leave this, and this is all I'm gonna say, but one thing that I constantly say all the time is I have the peace to accept the things I can't change, because a lot of times that bombards our minds. Some stuff you have to stop and consider. Can I change this? If the answer is no, rest in your peace. And then I say, I have the courage to change the things that I can. In this situation, can I change this? Can I eat better? Yeah, I can change this. Okay, give me courage. I need to walk in courage to change this. Can I adjust my schedule and not be, quote unquote, so busy that I'm missing out on taking care of myself? Yeah, I can control that. That's not a God thing. It's not an other person thing. I can do that. So give me the courage to change that. So give me the courage to change the things that I can. And then I'm going to rest in wisdom. And when we get wisdom, we can help add longevity to our years. Amen and amen. And that's all I have.
Amen. Bernice?
Along with everything that April said, I wholeheartedly agree with all that she suggested. But I just want to give those who are watching and who will watch it later just one question. What are you saying to yourself about yourself? The words that we speak to ourselves about ourselves is very important. And so what dialogue are you having with yourself about yourself? So sometimes I have to catch myself, when I am, doing things, and I'll beat myself up, about a mistake, or, then I become a bully to myself. And so, then, those words and those terms we take on, the negativity of the energy that those words, the emotion of those words come. And then that, throws our mind off balance. And so, just be mindful of what you say to yourself. I also have a wonderful book called Labels: Strategies to Help Heal Negative Thought Patterns. And in this book, which is written by myself, Bernice Michelle, I give self-check measures, just 4 simple, I'm an acronym person. God speaks to me through acronyms. And, the first one is to say prayers. April mentioned that, the word, and sometimes we can recite the word back to God, and then that penetrates us, and then that but it uplifts us. And then also words of affirmation. What are you speaking to yourself? And say those things. And then the E is to eat right and exercise. Exercising it heightens the endorphins in our brain and the feel good chemicals of our brain. And then it's a release too. Sometimes we just need to release. And so exercising is a release. And then eating healthy, eating things that are going to make us feel better and not make us feel heavy. And then, like April said, the L is listening to good content. What are you listening to? Be mindful of what you're listening to and you're taking into your ear gates. And then the F is to find someone that you feel comfortable talking to so that you can release what's off of your mind. And it doesn't have to be your best friend or your spouse. You can go and hire someone. There are people, paid professionals, who will sit and listen to you express, and that will be your safe space. So it is okay to have a therapist, a counselor. It's okay. So especially in the minority community, I want to express that it is okay for you to go and seek professional help. I just met with my therapist on Thursday, and so it's just those check-ins of, I need to dump this out. I need a neutral space to get this off of my chest. And that is wellness to me. taking care of your body. I go get a massage religiously every month. That's something that I'm dedicated to myself. And that is meant to, it feels good to my body, but it's a part of my mental wellness, because I do have a self-care plan, that I intentionally implement. And massages is one thing I do. And then one thing I also want to leave you all with is being aware of your breath, because as a registered nurse, I have seen, I've been there at the last times of people's lives, and our breath is who we are, and our breath can regulate how we feel. If we control our breath or breathing, it can control our body and help have us be in a relaxed state. And so I'm going to just add the tool of meditation to quiet your mind and be still and know that God is God. And
Yes.
then allow that exchange to happen in that space. And so those are the tidbits that I would like to give. And if you would like to label strategies to help heal negative thought patterns, go ahead and get your copy. And so, yes, those are my tools that I use, strategies, for my mental wellness. And so be well.
And just to really even emphasize, as Vernice was speaking about, that it's okay to go and seek professional help. One of the other things that we wanted to hit on with this conversation is to get away from the stigma that sometimes is associated with getting mental health support. There are times and situations where it is going to take you going to a professional. That does not mean that you're not including prayer, because you should pray and ask God to lead you to the right place,
Right.
for God to lead you to the right person. And having to say that you need help, there's nothing wrong with saying that you need help. Saying that you need help does not mean that you are abandoning your faith in God. It simply means that you are accessing a resource that God has provided. God has given the capability for people to provide help in that way. And so needing to get help, there's nothing wrong with that. So if you find yourself in a condition or in a state where you're like, I just can't do this, and all that I'm trying is not working, reach out for help. So reach out for support. And so not only that, but I want us to also just really that we would take away the necessity of knowing ourselves, that we would take time to really not just, sometimes we don't even know our own identity, and we don't know ourselves sometimes because we don't want to know ourselves. So a big part of the solution is admitting who you are, learning who you are. We can change things once we admit that they exist. But sometimes we spend so much time in denial about different things that then we're not able to deliberately take action to make change. So admit where you are. When I admit where I am, then I'm able to go forth. And the way the Bible puts it is that if we confess, that means open it up. God knows where we are, who we are. It's really a matter of us recognizing where we are. And then as I do, that's like when you go to the mall and they have a map, it'll say you are here. Because in order for me to get to the next place, I need to know where I am in relationship to where I'm trying to get. So taking the time to recognize who you are, where you are, helps us to go further. And also we have to be so mindful that we do not ignore the red flags that are popping up, no matter how large or small those flags are, that we don't ignore them and just keep riding on. One of the things that is very essential to maintaining mental wellness is that we have times where we reset, that we have times where and if you think about it, like with our computer, that you have to have times where you restart. And God even showed me this naturally, because I kept having times where my computer, where the sound wouldn't work. We were having something at school, and I was supposed to be the person to help to monitor and speak throughout one room. And all of a sudden, I went in and my computer, the sound wasn't working. What I have discovered is that a lot of times I was just closing my computer down. I was not logging out all of the way. So what was happening is that I was missing the opportunity to restart, because when you restart, that's when where there have been downloads, where there have been upgrades. I was missing all of those within my computer because I was not shutting down. I was just closing it out. And so because of that, missing those restarts, I kept having times where my sound, I was like, and it just, look, this lesson just came this week because it happened again this week. I was like, what is going on? And it was like, you haven't been restarting. You have to take time to reset and to restart, because if you don't, you're still operating off of old hardware. You're trying to do a new thing through an old pathway. And there are times where God wants to download more to us. He wants to download upgrades to us. He wants to download modifications to us. But all we keep doing is just shutting and running off in the busyness of trying to get to the next thing. Instead of taking those extra few minutes to log off completely, I was running on to the next thing. So be mindful that in life, there are so many things going on that we take time to restart. As you said, sometimes it might be just a walk. It's amazing we're walking 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes will reset you. And one day, there was a day where I had taken my mother somewhere and I was going to need to pick her up in 45 minutes. Okay. And so I said, oh, I can use this 45 minutes to go. I need to go to the store to do this. I need to go to the store to do that. And the Lord quietly whispered to me and said, go home, watch something funny, and get a bite. I came home. I turned the TV on, put on a comedy. I think it was when something had just come out. I put on a movie. I started watching it, and I just ate something. And I was like, this feels so good. I was like, oh my gosh. It was like, whoa, take those times. You know, like literally sometimes we're trying to cram so much in a small amount of time that it can leave our brains crammed.
Yes.
It's okay. Even though we have a lot on our to-do list, it is that item. Is somebody going to die if you do not complete that item today?
Yeah.
And sometimes things we're just going to have to, I'm not talking about procrastinating, but I'm talking about prioritizing. Sometimes we're trying to fit too many things into our schedule. And what happens is that we're running all of the gas out of our engine.
That's right.
We're running all of the oil out. We're emptying our tanks, and we literally have to take time to reset so that we can be renewed. And even like you were saying, Bernice, something about breathing. Sometimes I just stop and take a deep breath. Like it's amazing what taking a deep cleansing breath. And even times where I feel like, oh, you know, like I'm rushing to try to get something done, like literally taking a deep cleansing breath. And then this solution, we have to get to a place where we do not find joy in being the victim. Because sometimes in our society, being a victim and suffering, literally, like we sometimes wear it like a badge of courage. Like, oh, I'm doing so much. I got so much to do. I've done it.
Yeah. I'm so busy. I've done
it. And he's like, literally, you are overtaxing your mind because you're glorifying. And somewhere we have equated busyness with being successful.
Right.
And so because of that, we sometimes put ourselves into too many rings when we have to draw back. And again, this is me talking about life lessons that I've had to pursue in
Mhm.
order to walk in peace and in order to keep my mind in the right place, like literally. So, ladies, because we could go on, and as always, the time is drawing in. So I just want to.
Can I
Oh,
say something real quick?
yes.
I want to add to what you said about reset because that's so important. That's
Yeah.
good. And sometimes you have to do that. I actually, the whole month of March, took a reset.
Yeah.
I was like, I deactivated my account. I had to get on there for certain stuff real quick and deactivate it right again. The people at Facebook probably looking like she double-minded. She don't know what she want. I don't know if I want you or not.
Mhm.
To reset, to renew, to rewire. And sometimes we have the input produces the output. Some of us need to take a social media break because that's affecting your mental health. Period. Period. There's statistics. There's if you don't want to believe me, go look and listen to the smart people. Since I might not be as smart, and that's okay. It affects you mentally,
Mhm.
and then therefore it affects you physically.
Yes.
And it actually affects the whole realm of your life.
Right.
That's a whole nother discussion. Relationships, everything.
Right.
So mentally, sometimes you need to take a break,
Mhm.
reset from even, that input. Because it's constantly input, the media, news, taking a break from news,
Mhm.
that input, all of that's coming to bombard us and to affect us. And the beautiful thing about when our mind has certain battles that we talked about in the ring, start embracing it as something good.
Mhm.
Don't look at it as bad. Start when you have that, you feel like I'm overwhelmed and it's just so much. Just like Bernice said, take some deep breaths, be aware of your breathing, calm yourself, and say, I'm thankful that I'm wired
Mhm.
to have these alerts.
Mhm.
Because guess what? It's not going anywhere.
Mhm.
It's like that thorn Apostle Paul talked about. He said, I prayed 3 times to God to take it away, and he wouldn't. Guess
Mhm.
what? There's some stuff, even including mentally, because that's how we're wired.
Mhm.
It's not going to go away, you all. It's here until we get up out of here. All we do is, number one, get awareness that we have the power to control it, and
Mhm.
then gain methods and strategies. What
Right.
works for me? I
Right.
like Bernice. I don't know if you brought this up, Bernice, but like essential oils, that's good.
Oh,
I use
yeah.
it at night. I have one of those diffusers,
Yeah.
and it depending on how I feel, I'll be like, you know what? Tonight I'm doing lavender,
Yeah.
and then maybe it might be another night. I'll be like, I think I'm gonna just go with eucalyptus.
Yeah. Yeah.
I switch it up depending on how I feel. Babe, peppermint. Like if my head is feeling tight, I'll put peppermint in there, peppermint oil, and it really does help just relax. It makes you aware so that you are taking control. Take your personal power back.
Yeah.
Take control of that. And I looked up something because Martina, we must have been in the same notes. When you said reset, I wrote on my paper, renew, rewire. And I wanted to look up because is derived from a Latin word, which means again and again. Again and again. Like we got to do this again and again. It doesn't stop daily.
It doesn't stop.
Again and again. Renew, recharge, again and again. We are renewing our minds daily.
Yeah.
Constantly. And be okay when you're able to allow yourself to even ride the waves of shifts for our lives. We're all in different places. Be okay with what is that. I just had a major shift even from a career perspective. And I before I took it, I was like, how do I reset my mind to begin to look at the new? What is ahead? And not keep going back to what was. Allow ourselves to do that. Embrace it and be okay with doing it. Don't suppress it. Don't suppress it because then that allows blockages in our mind and blockages for our growth. Be able to talk about it. Because I would submit that even a lot of like our mental health heightened issues that we have and just even as people age, we're hearing more cases of dementia and more cases of Alzheimer's, things like that. We can help combat that. We can help combat those conditions because we're not allowing blockages to take place in our mind. and the negative creation of certain Bernice probably know the medical language for that, but that creates those different things in our minds that lead to those mental illnesses that come, as we mature and grow in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one thing, because I know this is like you said, we can go on and on and on. But one thing, and I'm glad, April, thank you so much for mentioning the essential oils, because I did have that down to mention. But also two more things is to journal, get the thoughts out, because sometimes you might not have, some people just might not have that one person, and they might not have the resource to be able to go to a therapist. And so,
right. I'm sorry to interrupt real quick. If anybody needs assistance, you're more than welcome to go to olivetreepartner.com, and I'll just leave it right there.
Yes, olivetreepartner.com for your mental wellness needs. And so, not only the essential oils, but the journaling, getting those thoughts out, having that safe space within yourself. We spoke about the investment of mental wellness. It takes $1 to go get a notepad, $1 to go get a pen, and then you just write out your thoughts, dump all of those thoughts out. And then if you want to, a way to seal the deal is to sometimes go ahead and create a ritual of burning your thoughts, ripping them up, getting those thoughts out and freeing yourself for real from what you're dealing with in that time. And so that, along with Summer mentioning hertz, there are certain frequencies that we can listen to. I listen to 432. That's my hertz. I brings me balance. And so those frequencies and sound, being aware of the sound that we have. So frequency, journaling, essential oils, all of those things, and we can just continue on and on and on.
And there's apps. I think Summer mentioned that. There's apps too.
Apps. There are so many resources out here that you can have, that you don't have to be alone, in your mental wellness journey, because it is a journey. Like April said, it's on and on and on and on. And you don't just get to one level and it's fixed. No, that's something will come back. And so, that's, like I said, we can continue to go on and on and on. This excites me because I really feel like that this is something that is needed in the times that we are in right now. Being in a pandemic, we are not out of the pandemic.
No.
Being in a pandemic, we need these resources. And so, yes, thank you so much. Yeah.
And literally, and we know we're drawing it in, but you're saying that one of the things that I had noted was just to explore different things. So there may be things that you maybe have never, now I'm not saying explore crazy things, but explore different things, like, when you're talking about essential oils and things, I noticed that I had this hand sanitizer that had eucalyptus in it. And sometimes it was called stress-free hand sanitizer. And I'm like, what? But literally just smelling that, I would smell my hands and it would make me feel relaxed. And then, thank you. And then also, yes, and I have Pathways to Peace by Martina P. Young. So, and it's literally just talking about, and it includes journaling, because journaling is very important. It is a release. And for me, going back, I've been recently going back through some of my journals, and it showed me how, progress and different things like that. And I also wanted to mention, even April, you had given me this lotion that is called, it says it's to help you go to bed at night. And I started putting that stuff on my arms and stuff. I would be in bed and just the different scents. And it just shows you how God has wired our body to be able to help itself. That there are different connections within our bodies. And so I'm just saying, explore different things. This past summer, I had never gone hiking before. I went hiking with one of my sisters and a niece. Just be willing to explore different things, and you never know how that is going to help you to maintain a place of balance, to renew your mind. And I want to say this before we close, and I know we're over, but still, if you all have any, what do we call them? Leftovers
Leftovers.
to take away. But just a word to those out there who find themselves pressed and heavy because you are a caretaker. There may be somebody, a parent or somebody that you're responsible for taking care of, or maybe you are the go-to person for everybody else. Some of us can find ourselves in a position where you are the person that everybody goes to for help. It is so important that when you are in that position, that you take time for yourself. I know, for me, I frequently find myself in that position that you are the leaning post for everybody else. And we talked about this earlier about checking in. You may even be responsible for checking in on other people. Please make sure that you take time to check in on yourself. And you have to be honest with yourself that even if you are the go-to person, another solution is that there may be times that you might not be able to accept the call. It is okay not to answer every call that comes through your phone. If you are in a capacity right now and you know that I'm already empty, I have no more to offer, there may be times where not that you ignore the person, but you might have to say, I'll give you a call back later. That goes to being honest with ourselves, because if you spin yourself out to the point where you have nothing left, that's when you're down on the ring, on the mat, completely out of the match, or where you're on the side of the road and you have completely emptied out your gas tank. So with that, be mindful. It is okay. We can take off our Superwoman and Superman cape. We do not have to be the rescue agent. Sometimes we can get ourselves, and I'm talking from me, that I have got myself in the place where you become a savior, and you're not. So take it off. We cannot, while we're talking about solution, you cannot be the solution to everybody's issue. If you don't take time to apply solutions for yourself, if you don't take time to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, then that solution can end up being burnt out. So I do just really want to press that. If you are that person, take time for you, even if it is just you taking 5 minutes. Another solution before we close out, sometimes for me, taking a long hot shower. There are a lot of things that don't cost any money to do, because you may not be able to afford a therapist. You may not be able to afford to go and buy everything, but you can go take a hot shower. You can go out at night and look at the stars in the sky. You can stand outside and just take a deep breath and listen to the birds chirp and look up at the clouds and look up at nature. I'm going to say this and then I'm going to shut up, is that God in times has used over and over again that when I find myself mentally exhausted, to go outside and look up at the clouds if it's in the daytime, or look up at the stars if it's the nighttime. And he reminds me through looking up that the same God who upholds the cloud, who caused the world to revolve, and even now gravity still holds us down to the ground, is the same God that is sustaining my life. And so that is not anything that I would have to pay for, but it would just be me investing the time to stop and look, or to stop and smell the roses and look at the posies. And but anyway, but literally just take time to stop and to reset. Just have to, and even laugh. Find a reason to laugh. People may think like me and this harmonica. Really, the harmonica is about laughter. That literally is what it's about. God gave me that as a tool, as an outlet. It seems goofy, But literally, I have been in a drive-through and played it for people, and just find some type of outlet, something that is going to bring you joy, something that's going to make you laugh. Resetting your mind can be as simple as, and I mentioned this on the one, I sing sometimes goofy songs. Just find whatever God created you. He is your manufacturer, and find out what it takes for you to experience that reset. So that's it. Ladies, I know we're over a little bit, but if you have any, those are my leftovers too. If you have a quick leftover to throw in the bag before we close out.
I just have one, two, well, maybe three or four. Now I'm just playing. But but you said something about, being there for other people. And I just, if we attempt to be there for everyone, but then we will leave nothing for ourselves. And so, just make yourself a priority. And then I have an acronym for you. Just 3 words, 3-word acronym is awareness. Be aware of yourself. April mentioned that throughout the show is awareness. Intentional, to be intentional about your mental wellness. And then Martina mentioned the reset, to have the reset. And that all equates to the word air. And so that goes back to our breathing. And so if we take the time to be aware of ourselves and that we are intentional about our mental wellness, then we are able to reset through our breath. And so take some time for yourself to be aware of yourself, because we are our breath, and monitor how you're doing by how you're breathing. And so that's what I want to leave. And I hope that you take that leftover and munch on it throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year. Thank you.
April?
I think she's muted. I think you're muted.
Oh, I said, what do I say after that? It's good I was muted. That's the leftover. That's it. That's it. Awareness, intentional, and reset. I think it's so important, because we have to do that again and again, over and over. It's a daily thing. So make sure we're taking in our daily air constantly to maintain our mental awareness. Yeah. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it.
It's simple. It's simple.
Don't overthink it.
We don't have to think about breathing, right? We just breathe. Yep. Unless you're having some difficulties, that disease process has already started. But naturally, we just breathe. So make it natural for you to be aware of yourself. Make it natural that you are intentional about your mental wellness, and make it natural that you are able to reset when you need it. It's natural.
Ooh, love it, love it, love it. Thank you, ladies, and thank you for all that joined us today here at the table. We appreciate you connecting with us in this dialogue. We pray that there has been something that was said that would help you to experience that reset and to be renewed in your mind. Pass along the word, share. This video will still be available. So if you know someone that it would benefit them to watch it, please share it with them. And we thank you all. We love you too, Kara.
We love you, Kara.
We love you. Just pass along the word, and we look forward to seeing you again at the table. So thank you all. Have a wonderful day. God bless you. We love you. And remember to take time to, can we breathe together? Take time to breathe. All righty. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.